Hola, hola. This is your boy Tico Trent. This is going to be a question from a thing. A subscriber. I don't know if they're actually a subscriber or not. They claim they are, but I don't know if they are or not. But this is a question from a subscriber. He asked me basically. He's basically stated. I mentioned something about entering the Manosphere differently than everybody else in the Manosphere, basically. What does that mean? And can you elaborate on that? To answer your question, honestly, what I mean by that basically is I entered the Manosphere differently. Meaning, I didn't go through, the bullshit of being broken up with or drama and shit like that, being taken to the cleaners, having bad relationships, stuff like that basically. I didn't have to do all that or go through that shit is what that means basically. So I've never had a bad relationship. I've never went through some crazy turmoil. I never had I never been divorced, raped, just shit like that in general, basically. I've never had that shit happen to me. And I've actually stated in another video, basically, what that means is because I didn't have to face all that shit, obviously either I'm doing really, really good, or I was probably taught this shit by somebody else, which is probably a mixture of both. But I'm gonna go with the latter one. Probably taught this shit. Basically, as I stated in many videos across the motherfucking board, that the whole entire philosophy of the red pill, MGTOW, all that other stuff, basically is something that's taught in the family, and it gets passed down to all the men in the family, which is not very many of us. Every single generation of men get taught this same thing by the females in the family, basically, is what that means. So this whole entire MGTOW philosophy gets passed down to the men every generation, literally every generation. So every single thing that we get taught, every single thing that the Manosphere talks about the various things, women, nature, stuff like that, all gets taught to us by the women in our family. From you basically, if somebody believes something was missed, your tia would tell you, my tia would tell me, my prima would tell me, my sabinas would tell me, my abuela would tell me, various women, my hermanas would tell me, stuff like that, basically. So, yeah, all this stuff isn't new to me. It's been taught to me from very young, basically, till now. That's how I actually came into the Manosphere, by being taught this shit. So every single man in every single male member of my family would be in the Manosphere, literally, and could talk about stuff in the Manosphere because that's what we're taught. That's what we're taught from very, very young, when we can start walking and talking, until now, along with language, obviously. But yeah, it is what it is. This is what we're taught. This is what we're brought up on learning. We learn all this stuff, then we learn this other stuff too. And it's because the women I always said the women in my family are so over fucking protective that they want to overprotect. They overprotect the men in the family, basically, by teaching them this stuff. And just to say, if anything was just to happen to one of the men, let it be like a woman barraging them or berating them in public, one of the female in the family, we'll handle that in a heartbeat, basically. So you're legit that damn overprotective of the men in the family, and they teach this from generation to generation. On top of that, you kind of got to figure too, there's a lot of finances at stake, and every time one of the men in the family go into a relationship, so like that's money that's going to be leaving the family. We don't want money. They don't want money leaving the family, so there's things in place for that reason, just so it can be protected. So the women are literally fine-tooth comb overprotective of the men. They teach the men this every generation. There's not a generation in the family that's not learning this shit. That's the cold hard truth. That's how I entered the Manosphere. That's my approach into the Manosphere. And that's how I came to be in the Manosphere. So no, I didn't get divorced, raped. I didn't have a bunch of bad motherfucking relationships. I didn't date somebody and it ended up going south. None of that shit ever happened to me in a relationship. It's that fucking simple. Like every single breakup that I've ever been in has been an amicable one. It's either been on it's basically always been on my terms, literally. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, any of the women that I broke up with, I can pick up the phone and call them and they would get back together with me. That's legit. That's legit real shit right there. Not toot my horn or anything like that, but yeah, that's legit shit. Because like I said, I broke up on my terms for various reasons. That's how I entered the Manosphere, and that's what I mean about I have a different approach or entry into the Manosphere than most other men in the Manosphere, or majority of the men in the Manosphere. So yeah, I've never had any trauma like they did. I never got divorced, raped. I never had to pay child support, alimony, palimony, wherever the fuck it's called, basically. I've never had to pay none of that. So yeah, that's what that means.